Hey everyone, welcome back to Quilt-Tea. I'm Jen Sorenson, and this is the series where I document the story of my quilts. Now, no compensation whatsoever, I wish, but I wanted to share with you the tea that I'm drinking right now, and this is a TWG Geisha Blossom. Highly, highly recommend if you can get your hands on this. I usually have to purchase it when I'm overseas, traveling for work or something, but if you can get your hands on this, highly, highly recommend. Anyway, toss that onto the couch right in front of me. Let's talk about the quilt here. This is a quilt that I designed several years ago now as part of my Flying Geese series. You can see, even though it's arranged this way, we just have the Flying Geese block, and it's just arranged in this particular arrangement, for lack of a better word. How many times can I say arrange or arrangement in that few seconds there? Anyway, I picked these colors, and these are all Michael Miller Cotton Couture solids. I picked these colors, and originally, I don't know if you can really see, we'll come in for a close-up soon. I had these little arrows that were purple. That purple was going to be where this beige is. And when I was cutting the fabrics to prepare this quilt, I cut it wrong. And I accidentally cut the purple where the brown was supposed to be and vice versa. So this is just how it became, and I actually think it was the right move. I think subconsciously I knew that if I did the purple on the opposite of the navy here, it wouldn't have had as much of a stark contrast, and it wouldn't have this reflections, which is what I'm calling this quilt, this reflection feel. And the entire time I designed this quilt and made it, I actually had it flipped vertical instead of horizontal the way that I have it now. But once I had it pieced and bound, I had it laid out on the floor right here in my living room, and I walked by and I'm like, this is meant to be horizontal the way that you see here. This is not meant to be vertical. And sometimes you just have to look at things different. I think it was really meant to be how you see it now, and I'm so happy that I put the sleeve on the way that I did, because I think it really makes a difference. So as part of my Flying Geese series, I really was just taking a Flying Geese block, which is a 2-to-1 ratio essentially, and playing with different designs within. And I don't think there's anything totally extraordinary about this particular Flying Geese block, except it gives it a little bit of motion. It kind of elongates it by pulling we've got these arrows inside that kind of draw and elongate the shape a little bit. And sometimes it might look not quite that 2-to-1 ratio. It might look a little bit longer. So that was kind of my thought process. And really for this one, it's the arrangement that did it for me. And I just kind of arranged these and then shifted all of them over one on the top and bottom. In this case, it was going to be left and right, but you know, I just think it makes a big difference for it. All of my Flying Geese quilts in this series have had the term way, W-A-Y, in it, but for some reason I have to call this one Reflections because of what it looks like. So I'm breaking my own rules, and I think it's important to do that. I had this quilt top pieced for a while. I think I started it back in, I want to say 2015 or 16. And I had the top pieced for a long time. And then I decided, well, let's put this on the long arm. Well, if you've been following me here on YouTube for any period of time, you will have seen this sitting on the long arm for months and months and months. This was one that I put on my long arm probably, I would say, in the March or April timeframe of 2020, when I was starting to kind of bust through a whole bunch of UFOs while we were safer at home. And then life happened. Work got insane. I lost a little bit of my sewing mojo, and I decided, I just didn't have the energy to do any sewing. But towards the beginning of 2021, I said, you know what? I'm finishing this quilt. And I did. It took a long time, because this thing, as we get closer, you will notice, is entirely matchstick quilted. What I decided to do is I didn't want to matchstick quilt the entire thing with the same color thread. So there are 3 thread color changes here. There's a navy, there's a beige, and there's a teal thread. So the entire backgrounds are machine quilted using 2 threads in each background. And then the teal across the way has its own. I originally thought about doing some sort of like dot to dot style quilting in the teal and then doing something else with the purple, but I kind of wanted to dull the purple a little bit to really make the teal be more forward. And that's why I decided to just do the Flying Geese themselves in all one color. That's kind of my reasoning behind it. So we have a Cotton Couture solids here. It was pieced using Aurifil 50, paper pieced, of course. And then I matched it, quilted it using So Fine number 50 by Superior Threads because that's kind of what my machine really likes. So I stick with it. And there is a Quilter's Dream Select cotton batting on the inside. Just to give you an idea of some of the materials I use. I just find that they work really well for me, and I go with it. Why don't I take you in right now to take a look at some of the details. I'll show you the details of the piecing, the quilting, and the back, and then we'll come back here to wrap it up.
Well, this really gives you a good idea of how densely quilted this is. And the teal quilting on the geese doesn't take away from the purple all that much. It just kind of complements it and blends in, but I didn't want all of it to be done with the same color, so you can kind of see the difference. And let me put my tiny hand here for scale, just so you can see how dense I quilted this. So there's a block, and no, nothing's perfect with the quilting, but gives you a really good idea of how densely quilted this is. I'll go up into the navy so you can see really here, you've got the navy thread, the brown thread, and the teal thread. All really densely quilted to give it a really fun look. That is not the right color. That's a better color. That's true color of what you see. And then what I did was with the binding here, normally, there's cat hair. Normally when I do my matchstick quilting, I like to face bind it. But for this one, it just called for the opposite fabric to be done in the binding. So if we take a step back here, you can kind of see how I have the opposite color as part of the binding. And I think it just adds a little something extra that you may not necessarily notice. All right, and here's the back where it almost looks like a separate whole cloth quilt. And you can really see the difference in the thread colors that I chose. The backing is just kind of like a linen denim color. It was a wide back because I didn't want to piece that at this point. And you can really see the quilting elements on the back. And I think it just really adds something to it in doing it that way. I so love it. The only challenge I had was, you can see, or is it like a little bit right here? Every now and then you're gonna see little puckers because I've ended up having a burr on my machine, and it took me a little while. It looks almost crinkly there, but maybe needs a good ironing. That really exaggerates it. It's not that wavy. It is very flat. I don't know why it looks wavy there. But anyway, I had a burr and I kept having thread snapping and breaking on me and shredding. So I think that's another reason this took me forever, is I just couldn't figure out where the burr was, but I figured it out, got it filed down, and made it work. And I'll show you here kind of a close-up. So you can kind of see how I basically go down a row when I do my matchstick quilting. So I go, let's find my finger here. Go down a row and I basically just like stitch up one stitch and then I go over, and that's how I do my matchstick quilting.
All right, well, I hope you enjoyed the story behind this quilt. This is a new finish for me. Hopefully I can bring you a few older finishes as well to give you the story and you can see the progression of my quilting style and journey through the years. But like I said before, I think it's really important to just document the story behind the quilts themselves so that people know the materials, the thought process, the piecing. I don't know if I mentioned, I think I might have, but all of these Flying Geese are paper pieced because it's me. I love to paper piece, and it made it a lot of fun to put together. So I hope this inspired you to create something beautiful, whether it be a quilt, pull out an old quilt that you started like I did with this one back in 2015 or 16, or start something new. Maybe this gave you some ideas around turning one of your quilts a different way and look at it with different eyes. Maybe attempt some matchstick quilting or something like that. But until next time, have a fantastic day. I will see you real soon.